What it do? Sour Crew. How's it going? It's your boy Soul, aka my name's not Lemon. Welcome back to another episode of Melancholia N Haloes. What's up? So, first and foremost, I want to apologize for the sound. You're gonna hear a lot of background noise. Ain't nothing I can do about that today. I thought, maybe I would just save this for another day, but I'm afraid that if I do, there won't be another episode. So, today's topic is a bit embarrassing for me, but it's something I wanted to discuss and talk about. And it's something that I'm literally just jumping into. Usually when I say I'm jumping into an episode, I have something planned out. A rough a rough outline, a draft of what I'm going to talk about, bullet points, if you will. And then for today, this kind of, I think, came about last night and predominantly this morning. And just like the title says, we are going to be talking about relapsing in, I think, the common sense, which would be drugs, and also with mindsets and behaviors that we want to leave in the past, or that we thought we did leave in the past. So literally, let's jump into this. So, I just have to address it in the background. My family's home. We chillin'. It's Sunday. The kid just got home from a little vacation. Was seeing family. They're watching Netflix, And those sounds low-key bring me comfort. I know they're not going to do well with with podcasting, but for me particularly, if you hear those sounds in the background, think of it as an ambiance, like a little background music of what makes the host comfortable, so you could get into that kind of mindset. Knowing that family is around and they're in the background is a comforting feeling. So, I did write something down right before I started filming, just so I wouldn't be totally lost and go off tangents like last episode. Honey, last episode and those tangents, it was something else. So, the title, Relapse, Drugs, Mindsets, and Behaviors, which has been something on my mind for the past month or so. I was sober off weed for 4 months. To give a little context, a little bit of background information, I started smoking my birthday, or the day before my birthday. So January 14th, 2017. And from then on, I've been smoking regularly. It started off really fun for my anxiety and stress and for sleep, and it worked really well. I really loved it. If anyone that smokes, or if you used to smoke, or if you know people that smoke and you're familiar with it, an eighth would last me about 2 months. And it was fantastic. Where are the dirty clothes? You hear that? Jeez. I'm telling you, he just came back from a trip, alright? So, that was great. Great times looking back. A very little bit would get me really high, and I would feel like I'm floating on the clouds, and I would just feel great and happy all the time. And I would always kind of freak out when my friends, who are potheads, would smoke a whole eighth in a sitting. I just didn't make sense to me. Until it did. I started hanging out with them a lot more, trying to keep up with them, wanting to hang out with them, and ended up getting to the point where my tolerance was crap. It took me a lot to get high. I have a personal threshold, like my body just has a threshold of how much THC it will take in before. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted. My glasses on. That's a truck. Yeah, okay, I'm just like looking. There's like something in the alley like making its way over here, and it's like big and blue, and I'm like, the fuck is that? We about to get taken out right now. Yes, truck. Don't mind me. Cut this out. The tangents, they're coming, the tangents. So, I started basically I became a pothead. Like you hear in the movies, like you hear bad things about those potheads. That was me. But at the time I was working and I was in school, so there was a limit to how much I would smoke when I would smoke, because I had responsibilities and a schedule. And let's fast forward to 2019 when shit hit the fan for me. And it's something I've always said I would discuss openly. And on this podcast, it's the perfect place to discuss what went down with me 2019 to 20 to now, to be honest. And to make a long story short for this particular podcast, 2019 was rough. It's when I really figured out what depression and anxiety was and how big of an issue it could be on someone, particularly me. Because, that's what I'm talking about, me. And my experiences. My God, more people are getting home right now. Is this a fail? Should I start over? Gosh. I had to start filming right when the kids got home. This is what my life is. This is my life. Because I'm just thinking about last episode with the tangents. The noise, the background noise was horrible. There was a lot of cuts. I'm going to have to start over. Listen, I'm sure that beginning part's going to make its way into this podcast. But if it didn't, know that my family's home. Just some people just got home from church. Some people just got home from a little vacation. Some people are out there watching Netflix, having the time of their lives. You can definitely hear them in the background, so I apologize. I just went out there right now to talk about, I'm filming my podcast. My grandma, I have a mini fridge. I have a mini fridge in here. I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought that having a mini fridge in here was going to make it seem like I had my own little apartment and I was grown and I could be doing my own shit. It's just taking up electricity. Now it's used for a whole bunch of soda cans that I don't drink. A whole bunch of like those fizzy drinks, those waters, those citrus things. I don't drink those. I like regular water. And then beer. I don't drink alcohol. Which we're going to talk... Oh, excuse me. I'm getting a little bit too comfortable on this podcast. Excuse me, we're cutting that part out. We're cutting it out. So I have the mini fridge like right outside my door. Plugged into the bathroom. And my grandma was like, the hell are you going with this? And I'm like, I'm filming my motherfucking podcast. I came out here to tell them to shut the fuck up. She was like, oh, okay. I don't think I didn't cuss. I just shut the hell up, I think, or something. But anyways. Welcome to my... Do I have to start over my intro? What's up, Sour Crew? It's your boy, Saul. A.K.A. My Name's Not Lemon. Welcome back to another episode of Melancholia N Haloes. What it do? So, today... it was a little bit more somber in the beginning. Now I have a little bit more energy, but... Fourth time. A literal charm. Third time's a charm. Fourth time is even better. What it do, Sour Crew? It's your boy Soul, aka My Name's Not Lemon. Welcome back to another episode of Melancholia N Haloes. What's up? What it do? I'm not sure how much of the beginning of this podcast made it in to this week's episode, but it's rowdy up in here. Hopefully you don't hear the Netflix going on in the background, or else it's gonna be a total bust. Maybe I should just turn it off and hear it. Oh, fuck. Okay, so I did the intro a couple of times. I don't think I have to do it again. Welcome. If this intro isn't symbolism for how relapsing feels like, of how confusing and conflicting all of the emotions are, let me tell you, I'm not sure how much I cut out from the beginning of this episode, but it was hectic. Lots of noise, lots of rowdiness. Family is home today, and it just so happens everyone got home while I started filming, so that was rough. Today, it definitely started off somber. So if you, maybe it did make it in, and it's in, and you saw, that this was starting off on a real serious note. Maybe the universe was trying to lighten my mood and get me all chipper so that way I wouldn't be going into this in such a serious note, even though the topic could be serious, of course. So today's theme is about relapsing, and in societal terms, I think relapsing is always seen as a drug relapse, as in you did drugs, you got sober, and then you started again. I was sober off of weed for about 4 months now, and sober off alcohol for years. Minus a few times I've tried to drink socially, just to see like where I stood with alcohol, and that's something that I don't think I'm going to get back into. Alcohol just isn't for me, it just doesn't do it for me. Weed, on the other hand, is what I like. So, I was proud of being off something I was heavily reliant upon. So, when I first started weed, it was fun. It was just something that I would do to help with stress and sleep, and I just wanted to have a good time, and that was a great time. Then I started using it more frequently, and then once I had hit maybe a really rough time, hit a wall, I became heavily reliant on it. And I relied on it to make me feel better, to make me forget, to make me calm. And in time I noticed that I was ignoring a lot of the problems and issues that I was facing. And because I never stood tall and faced it, I never got past it. And it was always an issue behind the scenes, but something I never allowed myself to deal with face to face. I was proud to be sober because I was in complete control. That's something that I have an issue with in all aspects of my life. I want to be in control. It's one of the reasons why I always would smoke indoors in my own room, in my own house, and never in a new environment or never outside, because then I relinquish some aspect of my control, and I didn't like that. It makes me extremely uncomfortable. I was proud to know myself sober and love who I was. One of the reasons why I decided to stop smoking was because I wanted to know who I was sober, how I acted, how I behaved, how I thought, because I was in a completely different mind space. I've grown significantly in the past 3 years, and I wanted to have a full grasp on the type of person that I now am. When I wasn't smoking, when I didn't have something to calm my nerves, when I didn't have something to make me and help me forget, where I didn't have something to excuse my behaviors. I was proud to be myself, which is something that I was scared of when I was thinking of stopping smoking, that I had made smoking such a part of my identity and my jokes and the activities and the things that I would do with people so that we could be calm and comfortable and have a good time. So I was very much afraid that I would lose friends, or I would lose the part of me that made me fun and enjoyable to be around. I held that so dearly, and to an extent, I held that as being a part of who I am, a part of my being. Now, this is in reference to being sober. When I stopped smoking, I held that part of me so dearly that it became a part of my being, just like smoking became a part of my being, right? The reason why I'm talking about this now is because I have been smoking for the past 3 weeks. And at first, it started off with 2 of my closest friends moving back to Long Beach and them wanted to hang out, and I had stayed firm and said that I was sober and I wasn't smoking. A main reason being for jobs. Man, I just went out there to tell them if they could please be quiet. Like, oh, you're recording. Yes, yes I am. I have been for the past 30 minutes. So maybe that was a little bit telling me to get out of my head, because I was getting pretty emotional right there. So my friends had come back, and I was very much, I'm sober, I don't want to smoke, I don't want you guys smoking in my house. Now for a little backstory, my room is like the kick it spot. I have my own bedroom. I'm in an environment where smoking weed is fine, you know. And I feel like it's a vibe. Sometimes I do get very frustrated being in my room, because I'm in my room all the time anyway, so having to hang out here as well gets a little bit daunting and a little bit frustrating and a bit overwhelming. But I am comfortable here, of course, and I like that my friends are also comfortable here, which in turn makes me comfortable and makes me feel loved and worthwhile. So it's never an issue. So I was a little bit nervous. I didn't want them to be smoking in here and me being tempted to smoke. So I was really trying to hold my ground, but it kind of felt like I was betraying the group, or, you know, changing our habits and our ways and what used to be, and maybe putting a little bit more strain on my friends as to them not being able to smoke here anymore, or having to accommodate to me specifically, and it was making me very uncomfortable. Now, for about a day, I kept going back and forth. A big thing was job. I wanted to be sober, so that way when I get a job, when I drug test, because apparently everybody and everywhere drug tests, weed is still on that list that will not get you the job. And it takes about a month and some change for weed to get out of your system. So I really was nervous about that. And I had applied for jobs for the past 4 months and would either hear back and it was a no, or it took weeks to hear back from. So I was a little bit apprehensive, but something was telling me to smoke. And something was telling me just to do it. So I did. And doing so made me start to analyze the people that I was hanging out with, the people that I love, and the people that I want in my life very dearly. And what it did was it removed me from the situation, and it removed my thoughts of them and allowed me to see them for how they really are and for who they really are. It made me realize that I was putting a lot of images or imageries, or I was putting a lot of my thoughts onto other people and letting them tell me sorry about that, the kids. I was letting them tell me who they were. I was letting them tell me who they are, when in reality, it was a bunch of talk. And this is who they are, right? Their actions are who they are. And to me, I very much think who they say they are is also part of who they are, but you can't ignore their actions. You can't ignore their behaviors. You can't ignore their patterns. And I was just taking what they would say, and whenever I would talk about them, I'm like, no, they're this person. But in reality, they're this person. Who they say they are, plus their actions and behaviors, mixing together to create who they are. And this was the first time that I was seeing my friends and my loved ones for who they are. Just like I had to take a step back for myself and view myself for who I am. So yes, I want to be creative, and I want to do these podcasts, and I want to do videos, and I want to be creative in an editing sense. And I'm trying not to say, well, I don't have this program and I grew up on this program and I like this program and it's easy for me, so I can't do these things without having this program. That's kind of where my mind goes, a bunch of excuses. And now that I'm doing this, I work primarily off my phone. I'm lucky enough to have a computer that I'm able to do a rough edit on a free editing app, and then from there I take it to my phone to do a lot of the graphic designs and to make it look cool and aesthetically pleasing. And I do have like a free editing software that's like a free Photoshop that I can use too, and that I have used, and it's very similar to Photoshop. The only thing is that I can't open Photoshop files and stuff in it. I'm getting off tangent. But it's all a bunch of excuses because I'm sitting here doing it with the means that I have. And it's a stepping stone and it's a start. And although it is not what I have in my brain of what I would like it to look like, it is a blueprint to where I would like to go. And I think it's very important that you start wherever you're at with whatever means that you have. And you take that and you make it as close to what you envision as possible. And then you take it from there. Because once you get the experience of actually doing, then you're able to work around the limitations that you have and make it worthwhile. So that is what I learned from being sober. And if I were not sober, I highly doubt I would be in the mindset that I am right now. I highly doubt you would be listening or watching this podcast because it would have never been created. So taking a step back from the tangent I just went on and going back to how I felt like I needed to smoke. And when I did smoke, I was able to remove myself from the situation and view my friends and loved ones for how they actually are. And it really opened my mind and made me realize that I wasn't alone in feeling negatively about weed, which used to be something that I viewed in such a high esteem and viewed very positively. Now that I have been in a negative place and abused weed and saw how it could negatively impact your life, it made me realize that the friends and family that I've made along the way that told me to be careful with weed and that it's a gateway drug that will lead you into other drugs and that it is a very bad habit and it makes you extremely complacent and lazy and weak-minded and it's a distraction. All of those things are true, and I never thought that I would experience those negativities from where I was before when I started. Dude, this little boy, man, don't give a fucking flying fuck. I done told him I'm motherfucking recording. He wanna open in these doors like goddamn. He wanna have a little motherfucking conversation. I know you can hear him. If you can't hear him, bless the Lord. So I had taken my first step back into weed very, very positively. And for whatever reason, the minute I woke up, I was a bit groggy, which I hate from weed, but I was productive and I was going in, and I ended up coming up with the idea of having those little handouts for my podcasts. So if you don't know, in the description on Spotify and on my YouTube video where the podcast is posted, you have a link, and the link will take you either to a PDF or a PNG file. So the PDF is like the whole file and it has links to my socials and everything. It's really nice. And then the PDFs are just photos. And these are little handouts with topics that relate to the theme of the podcast. So I started this on episode 2. Oh my god, what was that? Oh my god, do you hear that? Sorry about that. Episode 2, the handout was talking about tips for dating. And it was just, I just sat down and I wrote it. And after I wrote it and like designed it, I was like, holy shit, like this just came out. Like I'm so happy. I'm so excited for this. Like it's another element, another little add-on to the podcast. It just makes everything feel a little bit more packaged and cool to me. And so I've been continuing with that, and I was just thinking how positive it could be if I kind of started dabbling with weed again, but still very much afraid that I would fall into the same patterns and behaviors that I exhibited before. And when I would mention to these specific friends, I would get, I don't want to say negative replies, but definitely fighting back. Like, no, like, no. No. And I'm like, I just want to hang out sober. I just want to do things sober. Like, no weed. And I would get a no. No, that doesn't work for me. I have to be high. We'll come to your house high. We'll do things high. You don't have to. And immediately that makes me feel left out. It makes me feel like I'm the odd one out, and it makes me feel like I have to smoke so I can be doing what everyone else is doing and to fit in, and so everyone is on the same playing field and the same wavelength. I don't want to be in an environment where everyone's high and a little bit slower and kind of in their own world and in their own head, while I'm out here talking about, let's do this, let's do that. We said we were going to do this. We said we were going to do that. Let's do this. And everyone just kind of not being into it because they're high, and I'm the only sober one. And I think in the extreme parts with this might be triggers for my anxiety and depression. I felt like I was going to lose my friends and lose what I had worked so hard to build, lose these connections, because they were going to think I was putting restrictions on our friendship and on our hangouts, and they were not going to be able to express themselves naturally, like how they want to express themselves and be comfortable and confident, because I all of a sudden was starting to put boundaries on us. So that was making me very, very anxious and very nervous. And there was a podcast episode that I was going to film on a tarot reading. So one of my favorites, if you watched episode 1, the intro, I talked about Mr. Aphrodite Honey, a pop culture tarot psychic, pop culture psychic tarot reader. He streams on Twitch. He has a YouTube channel, and I really, really enjoy his content. I think he's extremely entertaining, and I really like his aesthetic and his vibe, and I happen to really like tarot. So every month he does a prediction on how the energy for the astrological signs are going to go. So for example, I'm a Capricorn, so I watch the Capricorn reading and kind of see like where the energy is at for us Capricorns and see if anything relates to me. Now, I was going to do this the first week it came out so that way everyone else could watch it, but I figured I would wait till the end of the month and do it for the last podcast of the month, which is next week. And it just happens to perfectly align, and everything that he said happened. And it happened with weed and my friend group. And I'm going to touch more on this next week, the next episode, go way into detail. And I actually brought it up. And it was crazy to me because one of these friends, I felt like I started to wonder that in my tarot readings in the past, when it said I was going to meet someone and I thought I was going to be my boo and we was going to be doing this together and we was going to be doing that together, I started to wonder if it was actually about them or this specific friend. Because when we were talking, this was the first time we had smoked together, right? So I had been sober for like 4 months. They had moved back down, and what they were talking about, what they were experiencing in their mental growth and their behaviors and their attitudes, everything they were talking about is exactly what I experienced these past 2 to 3 years. It was everything that I had went through, everything that I was coming to terms with, and it blew my mind that there was someone out there that was going through the exact same thing that I was, and they're coming to the exact same conclusions that I came to. And it just made me so excited to know that I wasn't alone and that I was being heard and seen, and the experiences that I'm experiencing are also shared experiences with other people. And I think it was getting to a stable and healthy mindset. I was gonna say mind space. And it just made me so happy that I was finally connecting with this person in person, and we were able to share these experiences together. And we actually ended up smoking together the next day as well. And that's when I really started to realize that I see myself in a certain light, because that's how I talk about myself, and that's how I view myself, and that's how I view myself in my head. And it was not reflecting the actions that I was exhibiting. And I think I realized that more so it really cemented for me, because I started seeing it in them. The day before, when we had talked, their actions were not reflecting what they were saying. And it made me get extremely defensive and emotional over them. And it made me kind of put myself in their shoes. And I was like, well, this is what I was doing when I was abusing weed and ignoring my responsibilities. Are they doing the same? And I was worried that if I were to bring it up and talk about it, if I were to mention it in any way, shape, or form, that it would be wrong, that it's not how they're doing things, and I would upset them by asking them if they were living in negativity as I was. Do you hear that? This cat, man, are you kidding me? I believe that was a main factor into me kind of really freaking out with getting back into weed. And if I was projecting my insecurities and my fears onto other people, primarily my two friends. And so I had to take a step back and let go. And in doing so, I continued to use. And to be honest, I was having a great time. Really fun, really relaxed. But in the back of my head, I was worried about the way others were perceiving me. Were they going to call me weak, lazy, unmotivated? And I've worked so hard to get to where I'm at now that I was afraid that I would just be seen as less than. And so that's where I knew if my mindset was becoming to get negative sober, that when I'm high, it was going to amplify and it was going to make my experiences horrific. That's how it started when I quit, and I didn't want it to come back this time around. So that was how I picked it back up again, and those were my thoughts and worries when I started. Totally weird how I got the feeling to start again. Completely weird how it opened my eyes to a lot of things around me in terms of how I view people, primarily my loved ones, and how I view myself. And now it's, how do the drugs make me feel? I feel really relaxed. I feel like I'm finally sleeping, and I'm sleeping so well. I feel happy. But now that I've been smoking like daily, like kind of went back to the daily thing, I'm feeling a little bit groggy, of course, but I think I am feeling a bit lazy and complacent in the fact that I didn't want to film today. And I don't know how, with all the noises and everything that was happening before, I don't know how that didn't deter me and make me not want to film and like push it off, but I didn't. I'm here, you know. But yeah, I think positively, they were started positively, and now they're ending on a little bit of a somber note. I think that it could make me feel amazing, and at the same time could make me feel like shit. And I have to know when to say no, when to set up my boundaries, when to smoke and when not to smoke. Point blank, simple, period. How the mindset harms me. So as I had mentioned before, a little bit earlier, that when I'm in a great mindset, the high is amazing. When I'm in a bad mindset, the high sucks. And as of now, I think, maybe I should just do this podcast another time. First, it started off really somber, and I was like really serious and sad about it. Then I was a little bit chipper, and I was like, okay, let's get it done. Now I'm just fucking pissed. There's too many fucking noises. And I am also pissed that, like, I'm even having to make this fucking video right now. It's a bit embarrassing, and I just hate portraying myself as weak. In terms of, like, strength, like muscle strength, like physical strength, I don't give a fuck. I don't. I'm all about the mental. And if anything for me comes off as being mentally weak, I hate it. I fucking hate it so much. And weed was one of the things that makes me feel mentally weak. And going back onto how the mindset harms me is when I'm thinking negatively and I smoke, I think very negatively to a point where it harms me on all aspects. It makes me think less of myself, and it makes me try to like knock down my confidence, but I have such natural confidence that I'm always conflicting. You know, you're not this, you're not that, you could be doing better, you're shit. And then naturally I'm like, what the fuck you mean? Like, what are you talking about? I don't understand, because I am not any of those things you're saying. So it's very, very conflicting and confusing. And I think what's really affecting me now is the fact that I don't have a job, the fact that I've been looking and I haven't been successful. After everyone's telling me everybody's quitting, I feel like a lot of the jobs that are opening up are maybe for, you know, degree jobs, like very specific, and I'm your basic coming into the workforce type of stuff. Like, I do receptionist type jobs, that's what I've always done. And in terms of that kind of customer service and people skills, that's where I flourish. And I feel like there's no jobs in that at the moment. And I finally got a job offer to go to an exam, and I thought it would have been a really good job, but I knew I wasn't going to get it because I was going to fail the drug test. But I wanted to go anyways, and it didn't work out. I'll go over that next episode when we talk about the horoscope, tarot, psychic predictions, and how it related to to me this month. Man, so I talked about two of my closest friends moving back to LB and how that got me back into weed, my relapse, and my mindset on how everything is working right now in my brain. And it's just a lot of me beating myself up, and I think comparing myself to others, and like, how come you're not thinking the way I'm thinking? Like, how come you're not beating yourself up? Like, how come you're spending money on this kind of stuff when, like, how about your bills and stuff? Like, we're different people, and I shouldn't be comparing myself to other people and to my friends and where they're at and what they're doing. I I think I'm just really looking for a type of guidance and looking for someone or something to look up to and for advice on like what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing, because I don't know. I'm now 26 years old. I figured I'd have a career going by now, post college, doing my master's, and I'm not. And I have no idea where that's gonna lead me. How my behaviors reflect what I'm afraid and don't want. So, last night I was thinking, am I even gonna film the podcast for next week? Am I gonna put it off some more? What am I gonna do? Because I don't feel like doing it. And then I got a DM from a friend. And I haven't spoken to this friend in a minute. And they had hit me up and they're like, hey, I really like your podcast. I just finished episode 2, which episode 2 was talking about my first times. So first time dating apps, sexual intimacy. And they're like, yeah, I relate to this and I like what you're doing and this and that and another. And it instantly was like, fuck yeah, like I'm gonna film this motherfucking podcast tomorrow. And before that I had another friend who I haven't talked to since high school that hit me up and was like, yo, I like what you're doing, like I want to do something similar, like it looks really fun, like I like this and that and another. I don't think he talked about my podcast, he talked about just a regular one-off video that I made, and I felt really good. It feels great. I know that as of right now I am making this podcast for myself and for myself only, and I want my closest friends to interact with me on this because it's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've wanted to do for 10 plus years and that I finally opened myself up to doing, and it's draining but rewarding. And because I'm so excited about it, I want my friends to be excited about it with me, for me. And seeing that not happen crushed me. I thought that no, I wasn't gonna like blow up and go viral the first time I posted something, you know, like, but I thought I would get texts and DMs being like, fucking finally you did that shit, you know, and I didn't. And I think that really negatively impacted me and discouraged me from continuing further. Even though I am doing this for myself, it's so important to me that I think I wanted it to be important to the people close to me as well. As much as I put myself out there for them and do a lot for them, I kind of expected them to do the same for me. And it didn't happen. And I just kept pushing myself, telling myself that I was doing this for me, which is the truth, and that I didn't need any external validation. It was all internal, as cheesy as that sounds. And I did continue to do it for myself, and I had one of my close friends reach out to me. He watches my podcasts when he's like going to work or at work, and he talks to me about it. And my homegirl, another close friend, these are all close friends of mine, just had a baby and she'll check in when she has the time. I got those 2 DMs from people that I haven't talked to in a minute that tuned in, and it just makes me realize that everything is going to be okay, and there is always light on the other side of the tunnel. And no matter how hard things get, it's worth it. And I think that maybe one of my fears for going back into weed is going back to this headspace that I was in that I didn't like, that was very negative and very dark, and nothing seemed to grow there, and no light seemed to shine. And I'm afraid that I'm gonna give up everything that I worked so hard for. I'm finally here. I'm finally doing what I've been wanting to do. I'm finally in a mindset that I've been trying to get into for the past 4 years. And I don't want to give it up. But I don't want to give up the friends and people and groups that I've made either. Next week, I'm going to go into detail about all of this and how, though I think it was about others, how it turned around and ended up being about me. This relapse, what it taught me was how easy it is to get back into behaviors so well known. These behaviors are literally carved into the ground from so much repetition. And once you get sober, you are walking and balancing from that rut. So how I'm thinking of it, think of it like a flat surface, and then you have a route that is always taken to the point where it's indented into the ground. And you know how when you're a kid, you would jump on, like you would kind of dangle on the side of the sidewalk in the street and kind of balance yourself like the circus, or if you were walking on some sort of like cement block, like a short wall or something, and you had to like, balance yourself on there without falling off, and one foot in front of the other type of thing. That's how it feels like. And it's so easy to lose your balance and fall back into that ditch and just walk the ditch, walk that path that's so worn, and get right back into the behaviors that you were in before. And if I would not have gotten that DM from that friend last night and seen it again this morning and replied this morning, that I don't think I would be sitting here right now, and I don't think I would be admitting this to myself as I am. And being able to just sit here and talk openly, I realized how fearful I was of alienating my friends or making them feel like I did this and I'm living this way now and this is how it was for me, so it must be like that for you. Because that's not what I was trying to say at all, and it's not what I think. From what I was told, I just wanted to extend a helping hand. And as I have stated before in previous episodes about setting boundaries and how it's still new to me, I think that I tried setting them up and they weren't wholeheartedly respected by all parties, and it made me second guess myself. And although my experiences with smoking this past 2-3 weeks and my experiences with them have been positive, fun, I think that I can't allow myself to tread murky water. And that I have to put myself first and be vigilant with myself and to take this as serious as I need to take it. So I've relapsed on weed, on a drug. And it opened my mind to very positive, enlightening things and very dark and negative things. It made me realize that I can lose the mindset that I worked so hard to build. A mindset that has made me extremely productive, well-rounded, happy, grateful. And this relapse definitely affects my behaviors and how much motivation I have to do things, what I want to do, when I want to do it, my schedule. And so I know that every once in a while, it would be amazing, it would be great, it could be fun every day, I don't think so. Even talking to you now, I feel a little hazy. I feel a little groggy. It feels like there's just some type of weight on my brain, on my head, on my mentality. And I don't like it. And even like talking to you now, I'm like, okay, I'm about to be done filming and I could, smoke a little bit, relax. Like, that's what my mindset's at. But for what? Like, relax and do what? I just want it because I'm bored. Like, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do after this? Like, just because I'm going to be bored, I want to stimulate myself. And that's how the habit started for me. So I have no idea what this podcast was supposed to be, what's supposed to be going over. I have no idea how long it's going to be because the beginning was so hectic. It's going to be me explaining like how I do Sour Crew all over again. I think I just really wanted to let myself be known, maybe hear myself speak so I could decipher what I'm really thinking. Maybe this podcast was strictly for me. But it's happened, and I feel negatively that it happened, but at the same time, I don't. I feel very conflicted. I feel bad and I don't. I feel like I did something wrong and then I don't. I feel like I'm not being responsible, but I also feel like I am. I feel like I'm being too hard on myself, but then I feel like I'm not. I feel like, weirdly enough, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like I'm on the right path and on the right track. But I still feel guilty. I feel guilty that I relapsed. I feel guilty that I'm thinking my friends need help. I feel guilty that I'm not what people want me to be and I'm not where people want me to be. But when I just look at it from my perspective and only think about myself, I feel okay. I feel a little nervous about money. Like if I'm not going to get a job soon enough. People keep telling me don't settle for a job you don't want. But at the same time, I'm like, shouldn't I just be thankful to have a job? And then I'm thinking about COVID and the new strain of COVID. Do I want to get it? Am I going to get really sick? What's going to happen? And I see all my friends going out and partying, and then I start thinking, am I being too dramatic? And then it's a cycle. What the hell am I supposed to be doing right now? I have no idea. But I feel okay. I feel happy. I feel content. I feel satisfied. And even though I'm going through these bumpy roads and trials, I still feel worthwhile. And I think that is something I couldn't have said in the beginning of this year. I couldn't have said that last year. I couldn't have said it 2019. And I certainly couldn't have said it 2018. So with that being said, though I am sitting here embarrassed and very much embarrassed having to talk about this, I feel as though it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the road. The journey has just begun. And I feel confident. And with that being said, thank you, Sour Crew, for tuning in to another episode of Melancholia N Haloes. This is your host, Sol, aka My Name's Not Lemon. Until next time.